Hello and welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive with me, Siddharth Talia. Now, our focus today is whether or not there should be a ban on access to the social media for children, especially here in India. And the economic survey, very interestingly, rings alarm bells on India's hidden epidemic, social media addiction. Of all the documents that you could think of, it's actually the economic survey that's devoted an entire chapter to this worrying phenomenon. With 35 crore Indians online, compulsive scrolling is no longer just a habit, it's affecting our national human capital as well. From mounting sleep debt to rising anxiety and depression to low self esteem, endless video loops are now rewiring young brains, threatening future earnings as well as employability. So, this is a phenomenon that's actually not exclusive to children alone. Even adults are victims, in a way, of digital addiction. Experts now are calling for a push towards what they describe as digital hygiene. Across India, states like Andhra Pradesh as well as Goa are mulling the possibility of Australia-style restrictions for children, especially those under the age of 16. At least they've decided to initiate policy discussions about this matter, if not necessarily zeroing in on a specific law just as yet. Now, as kids' concentration levels crumble, cyberbullying increases, women also increasingly are facing online abuse. Clearly, all is not well with the social media. Let's also tell you why the social media is proving harmful in more ways than one, especially for children. It's known to affect brain development, especially when the brain is in a developing stage, an evolving stage. Intense use of the social media as well as access to digital content is driving impulsivity and also instant gratification. There's also a looming mental health crisis, many people believe, and each extra hour raises teen anxiety risk by 13%, according to certain studies. Addictive algorithms are also a problem. They lead to sleep deprivation, digital addiction as well. And protection from harm is something that's regressing, is what people believe. Kids under 16 are more vulnerable to extremely disturbing phenomena such as grooming, cyberbullying, and even in some cases, sextortion. Also, the phenomenon of academic decline is being tracked as far as children are concerned. Excessive use of access to digital content or being on the social media leads to fractured concentration levels. It also affects school performance in some cases and also affects literacy levels as well, and also real-world social skills. The argument being that you're better off meeting somebody else in person as opposed to online. Now, let's also tell you what the HRD Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Nara Lokesh, has said about the social media and why the state of Andhra Pradesh, the government there, has already initiated discussions over whether or not there is scope for restricting social media access to people below a certain age group. He said that trust in social media is actually breaking down, that children are slipping into relentless usage, and that the usage is also affecting their attention spans as well as education. He's also said that women are facing non-stop online abuse and that this phenomena cannot be ignored. The Andhra Pradesh government has now decided to act, and they've ordered a study of a legal framework or the possibility of initiating a legal framework for age-appropriate access. Let's also talk about countries from where it all began, because it was Australia, remember, that actually came up with a law that bans creating accounts on the social media for kids under the age of 16. Now, this involves parental consent. They cannot grant permission for an under 16-year-old child. However, there's no penalty for users bypassing that age verification. The platforms that have now been included as part of that Australian law include TikTok, which is legal in Australia, Instagram, Facebook, X, Snapchat, Reddit, as well as YouTube. The excluded platforms are certain messaging apps as well as educational help platforms where they believe they perform a certain educational function if kids do indeed get access to it. Age verification, well, platforms are to use an age assurance technology, facial and age estimation software, as well as third-party tokens. Government ID cannot be the sole option for verification. There are also certain liabilities as well as fines that have been introduced. The onus is on platforms, and the penalties can actually extend up to 49.5 million Australian dollars. Let's also tell you about the countries where there is a hard ban on the use of the social media for children, meaning that you have to go through stricter regulations if you're under 16 years of age. So Australia, like we told you, where the minimum age is 16, and it's been active since December last year. It's the first total ban imposed by any country in the world without a parental opt-in. Malaysia has also, of course, undertaken similar steps. That particular ban has been active since the start of this year, January 2026, and there's a mandatory eKYC, or Know Your Customer, for all users concerned. For France, the minimum age is not 16 but 15. Again, it was incorporated this year. The full enforcement is expected by September 2026. In Norway, the minimum age again is 15. It's at the proposal stage as of this moment, and from the consent model to a strict age limit of 15. So those are the various countries that have already taken steps in this direction. Let's also tell you about the countries that allow the use of social media. However, this comes with certain parental control as well as consent. So the United States is among those. So is Italy, where there's parental consent for those above the ages of 14 and for kids, especially under the ages of 14. In Denmark, the age of consent has been drawn at 15. So anyone under that particular age is subject to parental consent when it comes to access to social media. In Spain, that age is 16 plus. And in Germany, the age of consent as far as access to the social media has been drawn at 16. So anyone under that age will require parental consent for any access to this social media. The government is already debating the possibility of a ban to be imposed in late 2026. So that's Germany. Let's take this across to our guests. We have NS Napinai, Senior Advocate and Founder of Cybersati, and also Dr. Anup Sharma, an educationist. Mr. Sharma, coming to you first and foremost. Now, India is contemplating the possibility of introducing age-specific restriction when it comes to access to the social media. And this is not at a national level necessarily, but it's the governments of Goa as well as Andhra Pradesh. Now, the difficulty of introducing something like this will always be the practical application of any law that is embraced, Dr. Sharma, because people will say that even if you draw the line of the age of consent at 16, what's the guarantee that somebody younger will not necessarily have access to the social media? We'll try to patch that line with Dr. Sharma, but in the meantime, let's also go across to NS Napinai, Senior Advocate. What's your take on this entire matter?
See, age gating is not a new phenomena. We've been speaking about it for a fair bit of time. And these issues, including the technology process that would be needed to ensure age gating, the two-factor, possibly, two-factor authentication, and the possible circumventions, which the younger generation is probably more equipped to resort to than the older one. And so the target audience for you to impose the ban is more likely to circumvent it, right? So all these issues have actually been discussed threadbare. The issue before us now, and this is critical, you've come at a stage where foreign jurisdictions have already imposed these bans. The narrative started well before these actions. So at that time, India was actually accused of being a little mild in terms of wanting the ban. But now we see a different story arising, right? So the issues remain the same. The solution remains the same. Whether India is going to adapt it or not is the question now. The first thing with respect to law is any law should necessarily be capable of being enforced.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to age gating, it would be extremely fallacious to assume that you will not be able to impose age gating. It is feasible both technologically and legally. And I think now the time has come for India to act expeditiously also.
Let me take this across to Dr. Anup Sharma, who's now with us. Dr. Sharma, First, it's a two-part question. In principle, are you in favor of age-based restrictions when it comes to access to the social media as well as digital content? That's point number one. My question number two is, let's look at the practical application, if at all such a law is ever introduced. Take, for example, the UA certifications or the adult certifications that a particular movie might get at a movie theater. So there, a child might not have access to the theater. The parents might not be able to take the child there to see an adult certified film. However, if that movie ends up coming subsequently on a platform such as Netflix or some other OTT platform, what's the guarantee that the parent is not watching that particular film within the confines of the house with the child also being able to see it? So even if you bring a law, how are you actually going to implement it? And what kind of a deterrent effect will a law actually have when we can't even contemplate the possibility of penalties being imposed on parents? Dr. Sharma, are you able to hear me? I believe we'll try to patch that line once again. We've been having problems, but Ms. Napinai, if I can come back to you, if you can take that question about the OTT platform example that I just cited, about the serious problems concerning implementation, even if we might agree in principle that age-restricted access is the need of the hour.
Would actually just flip the question over to you to ask, merely because it's been difficult to impose, have we stopped certification of films?
No, we haven't.
Even in movies,
films have not been stopped because at least at the movie theater, when somebody goes to watch it in a multiplex, somebody might raise the question, why are you bringing in a child to watch a movie that's A certified? However, within the house, Ms. Napinai, that boundary simply doesn't exist. A parent can watch a movie that might have an A certification within the confines of the house with the child also watching simultaneously. So how do you enforce the rule there? That's the question I was getting at.
Yeah, that's what I was leading to.
Yeah.
So the first issue is merely because something is difficult to implement does not stop us from bringing a law, which is essential, right? Secondly, the issue that you're raising with respect to the distinction between physical media or legacy media systems and OTT is something that the Information and Broadcasting Ministry also is faced with repeatedly on why is there not parity in terms of regulation for OTT is similar to that which you have in terms of legacy media systems. So that is actually a completely different debate, and you will have to have a show separately for that. But the construct that you're raising is critical. Yes. And you're absolutely right. You're trying to take regulation to the homes of the users.
100%.
But when you can take content to the homes of the users, why not regulation also? If you can take content to the homes of the users, and if criminals can violate the privacy of those users in their own homes, then why not protective measures to the homes of the users? I'm all for freedoms. I'm all for youngsters enjoying their life and having access to content which is creative, which is relevant for them. But age gating is not about restrictions. It's about reasonable restrictions which are meant to prevent, protect, and to also punish those who violate. How it is going to be implemented will have to have a dual approach, both with respect to technology, with the platforms will have to enforce and implement from their side. And when it comes to law, the systems, the legal systems have to enforce from their perspective.
Ms. Napinai, just to follow up, what if somebody says that the existing mechanisms, which include parental control over the choices that their children make below a certain age? So if you're a child under the age of 15, and we have Dr. Anup Sharma as well with us. Dr. Anup Sharma, if you're a child under the age of 15, you have a set of parents who will, of course, inevitably perhaps restrict your access to the social media if they exercise control over what you're watching. You're also being advised at school to be not part of a social media platform under a particular age. Do you believe that is simply inadequate in a country like India, where those instructions may not necessarily be imbibed by the kids? They might want to go to the social media anyway, which is why you need a policy diktat which is a top-down imposition to basically give a directive that children under the age of 15 cannot have access to social media, period. Are you in favor of that kind of a diktat, sir? Or do you believe that the existing mechanisms do go some way in addressing the problem?
So basically, what I think, better parenting cannot be replaced by any deterrent, especially at this current era, where children at the age of 8 and 9, believe me, because I'm observing constantly in schools, earlier grade 9 and 10 children, whatever we could have expected from them, children now in grade 3 and 4 are exposed to that. And to be very honest, I am very blunt in this. Parents are responsible for that. Parents, I have examples, real examples, where I saw parents watch something in their mobile and they didn't clear off that. That was there somewhere in the cache and the child got access. And then we are blaming on the technology. Today's time, you cannot isolate children at the age of that too up to 16. No, not at all possible. So somewhere society and the parents and schools and the government need to look the ways how we can better parenting, and then we can do better schooling, and the government can do restrictions with restricting the algorithm part of feeding. Because nowadays what happens, you see anything or you talk anything, the ads start coming, the reels started coming. So that kind of algorithm, if we can restrict on the devices where the children are having access, so then we can look into this. Otherwise,
there will be implementation issues, but I do agree with what Senior Advocate Napinai also said, that just because there appears to be an implementation problem doesn't mean that you can't mull a law that brings about some kind of an age-restricted access, which is why it's still being discussed, it's still being deliberated. The state of Andhra Pradesh has already initiated those discussions. We'll wait and see as to how this actually evolves over a period of time. Many thanks to our guests, Senior Advocate Napinai as well as Dr. Anup Sharma, for your participation in this discussion.